What's up, y'all? Welcome to the On the Come Up podcast, where creative entrepreneurs share their come up journeys that turn their passions into success. I'm your host, Kimberly, so let's get started. What is up, guys? We are back with another episode. Today we are here with Kathryn Forbes. Your name sounds so official.
Thanks.
Kathryn is an actor and a social media manager, plus all things in between. When do you remember first being interested in acting?
First of all, thanks for having me. I'm really flattered that you messaged me and asked me to come on. I'd say the first time I remember being interested in acting, I was in early middle school, probably 5th or 6th grade. And I did some on-camera classes. I'm from Dallas-Fort Worth, so I took some local classes and loved on-camera work. I remember taking some headshots and my dad said he sent them out to an agent, but I had braces. It was very awkward. I didn't necessarily pursue it as much. And then when I went into high school, I did the freshman year musical, but then I joined dance and drill team. So I didn't really keep up with it. And then I spent 10 years it was in the back of my mind. I just didn't really return to it until I was working in psychological research later on in my 20s. And I remembered, I loved this. So why don't I go back to a creative activity that I loved as a kid, just with zero goals in mind. So when I was, I think, 24, just as something outside of my 9 to 5 then, I joined another on-camera studio. So for the first time in 10 years, I was acting again, and I fell in love with it.
Yeah, what was that moment that pulled you back in?
So this is everything goes back to Glee, I think, the TV series when you're a creative, in your late 20s. Naya Rivera had sadly passed away, and then I did my biannual Glee rewatch binge. And I remember watching it, and I don't even know what one of the better seasons at the beginning. And I remember thinking, because I was in choir also in middle school, and I remember thinking, I loved this stuff when I was a kid. And I wasn't that bad at it. And it was just something that I naturally was always drawn toward. And so I have adult money now. They were paying me not enough to take a ton of classes, but I thought, I have money to do something outside of work in my spare time. Why not? Zero goals in mind. My career's not riding on it at the moment. So I walked into that. So a lot of inspiration to this day still comes from Glee.
So it was just out on a whim.
Yeah.
Basically. What was your first experience on set like?
I'm trying to remember my very first experience on a set. It's a popular thing as an actor, since you need a demo reel to kind of produce your own small scene, I guess, which we would be credited for a short film. And so there was someone within our actor community who did those. And I worked as a PA on that set just to learn what it was like. And so the lead actor was also, I think he wrote it as well. And the director, he ran it like a real set. And so that was my first experience. And then a lot of it was looking around and, chatting up people who are also working on set, because sets are a big group project. I like to compare it to a class project. If you enjoy working with the people around you, then you enjoy their work, then you ask them to be on the next group project with you, and you know that they're a good partner. And so that was what I took away from my first time on a set.
Would you say are you more commercial, film, theater? Where's your or you just do all?
Really, all of the above. I started my training again in TV and film. So that's primarily what I love doing. And then of course, commercial, and we're a huge commercial market here in DFW. And recently, a group of acting friends and myself, in the past year, we decided, let's just do theater. Why not? And so a friend auditioned, did her first show, and then I did my first theatrical show since I was 14 years old. It was last fall, and it was Hamlet with the Classic Theater Project, and I fell in love with it. And now I understand why actors love doing theater. It was such a different experience, and I really loved it. And I loved the people I was surrounded by. And I just recently finished last week the 10-minute comedies with Robert Drama Works in Plano, and fell in love with that again. And so I'm always hunting for theater now. I love that it takes up so much of you, which yes is draining, but when you're surrounded by really great people, I love how all-encompassing the experience is.
What would you say is one big significant difference between being on set for a TV film commercial and then being on set in theater?
Ooh, a big difference between theater and a set would be, I'm trying to think of something that hasn't maybe already been said a ton before.
Obviously, besides the obvious, like you're in front of an audience.
Yeah, like you have to be a little
Live,
bigger,
yeah.
live. Like your improv skills better be up to par just in case something happens. I would say the way that it lives, and I was lucky enough to do Hamlet, so it is one of the best stories in the English language. It was a good story, and so it was amazing to feel it and be in it from beginning to end. And it's a 3-hour play minimum, even if you cut stuff out, which most productions of Hamlet do. And it was from start to finish, you are in that story and you were watching it as a living, breathing thing. And the audience was different every night, and you could hear them, how they would react differently. Some would laugh at some parts, some would gasp at others. And I would hear how the actors around me, who were much more experienced in theater work, played off of that, and they played off of one another. And it was truly, each night was a separate entity, I would say.
Yeah, I don't think I've actually been to like a huge theater show, but I have gone, how they do shows like at Six Flags.
Oh,
My
yeah.
mom loves going to those shows. And it's just like so fascinating. Like you can literally feel the emotion in the room.
Yeah.
And it's like you're amazed every time you leave, even if it's like a show at Six Flags, how much work they put into it, and you can tell. And I think that's just like amazing.
Because everyone in the room, whether you're behind the stage or in the wings, on the stage, or in the audience, like you're all a part of the same exact moment together. And that's why we also love going to movie theaters as well. Like we like to experience something as a group and experience art all as one group.
Yeah, I love it. What's a role that really challenged you, like emotionally or mentally?
Emotionally or mentally, I would say, a role. So I came off of doing 10-minute comedies, and there were two, I would compare them to sketches I was in, and the audience found them funny, and I knew like once we put it together, it was all funny. But at first read, you would read some things and think, oh, this isn't necessarily my type of humor. And it was challenging for me. One, like I'm usually doing on-camera stuff, so you can raise an eyebrow and it's different, and that comes across. Whereas in an audience, especially a thrust stage where they're to both sides and in front of you, you have to move differently and you have to emote differently. And to something that I didn't find was my necessarily sense of humor at first, and having to connect with that and really invest in it, especially with the actors around me, I found that challenging in a good way, because it's something that I didn't get to experience much beforehand.
So you were just like on stage? Was it?
Yeah. I think they're called 10-minute comedies, and I just ironically was in the ones that were less than 10 minutes. And when you're surrounded by an audience on three sides, you don't get to stop. And so when you're on a set, you kind of you film your close up, you film your wide, you film your 3-button, you film your close up, etc. But on stage, you're acting the whole time. And when you're not speaking, you better still be reacting and living in that moment. And that was challenging. And then different audiences, because every night was a different living, breathing thing. Every audience would react and laugh at different points. And so it was playing off of that. And it kept me on my toes, which was fun. It was challenging, but fun.
I feel like that's scary to me.
It was, but I had nothing to lose. Like I didn't necessarily know anyone in the audience at first. And then in that case, like if they're laughing and they're having a great time and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing and the actors and I have prepared and we've done everything our director has helped us to do, then at that point, like I don't have anything to lose. And that's kind of the attitude I've been keeping throughout this whole creative journey, or as it started in the last 5 or so years. That's carried me, I suppose, through where I am now.
Yeah, I love that though, because I mean, you're doing what you love, and then what else? Like, what do you have to lose? So I know you said you have like a background in psychological sciences, which is super cool.
Yes, I have a master's degree in psychological sciences.
What's something like psychology has helped you understand better about the human side of acting?
I would say, well, the process of acting, or maybe being on a set. Which one?
Like either or yeah.
I would say, so my background is, like I said, in psych sciences, and I worked in academic research in suicide and depression, which really fun conversation starter or ender, depending on where I was. I have learned everyone is invested in different aspects of research. We were researching in clinical trials, so like pharmaceutical interventions. We were going into schools, researching with kids, and doing what I now understand as really was kind of improv-esque or improv adjacent work with them. I think what I've realized is that the imagination has been really, really helpful in implementing some of the research that we were doing. So for example, it was Youth Aware of Mental Health was the program that we were doing research on, but also putting into local school districts. And Arlington School District was actually a place that I went to as one of my schools, and we would go in there, and it was a universal and preventative mental health solution to high school students. And so we would go into the schools, we would give them prompts, we would slowly back away as instructors and let the kids in the room act out scenarios. And what I learned was that if it didn't apply to them, they were still invested because they wanted to be a good friend. And so that was something else along with acting. Like if it doesn't apply to you specifically, if a character isn't exactly as relatable as you might find it easier to be, that there was always something worth investing in and finding that creatively.
Yeah. Do you think it's easier, like, when you're doing an audition, if the character, like, it relates to your personal self?
Yes, I think it's easier, but I still want to keep myself challenging because I like it, but do I like it because I'm not lazy? Do I like it because it's a little less work, or do I like it because I am able to quickly find like, oh, the humor in it or the sadness in it?
Yeah, are you ever like surprised of like, dang, how did I come up with that? When it comes to like improving, like on auditions?
Improving in auditions. So I don't have a ton of experience improving in person in auditions because most of our auditions are self-tapes. And so my boyfriend, bless him, like half of our office at home is essentially a self-tape studio, and he's usually my reader, thankfully, and he's wonderful at it. And what I've noticed is when I have a script and, I try to memorize it because it's my boyfriend's time as well. So I need to come prepared as if I'm going to a paid self-tape session, memorizing those lines. I think I had a character that actually wasn't like me. This was maybe 2 years ago, a self-tape, just someone with kind of in the opposite personality as me, but I got to like move my body in a way that I just don't normally get to. And she was very loud, very fun, but like very, I would say seductive up front. It was fun to play. I would guess with a character that's not necessarily like you. It's fun to play with the character and different voices and to see what you can come up with just in the safety of your own home.
Right. And it's always amazing. Like sometimes I'm like, dang, how did I come up with that one-liner,
Yeah. Or I always think of a one-liner after the fact, like in conversations with people. Or I'll think of some interesting ones that play well with the group on the spot. And then, of course, the next day I think, oh, I should have said.
If you get to play any character, real or fiction, who would it be?
Lately, I've been reading this book actually called like, I can pull out my phone to find the exact title, but it is Theater and Democracy, and how in the 30s, a part of the New Deal was funding a national theater. And Hallie Flanagan is her name, of one of the women who was in charge of the whole national theater, and how she had to testify in front of the Un-American Activities Committee. I might be getting some of these details wrong, but as I've been reading about her work, I think that narratively it would make an incredible story, and I've been thinking about her a lot. I think that would be a really fascinating character to play.
What kind of, is she a real?
Yes, yeah, she was a real historical figure, and she ran essentially the National Theater and had to deal with the federal government and essentially a culture war. If people were afraid of like certain stories about the people, or if like they culturally clashed, for example, in the South and in different parts of the country, and she fought really hard to continue to bring shows to people and to local towns who don't necessarily have access to great arts programs.
Are you more like someone who likes to like watch like documentaries and stuff? Like things.
It depends on the day, because right now I'm hooked on Love Island for the first time. Like I've never watched it before, and I'm very invested in Love Island US. And I'm a huge movie person. I've got my Alamo Drafthouse season pass that I'm using later today. I love a dramatic film, but I'd rather see a smaller budget, dialogue-driven film with fewer sets and really interesting characters than, say, a big action movie.
Oh, okay.
But I do love documentaries. It depends on the subject and how much time I have. If it's a multi-episode short series, I would say I don't necessarily have the time to invest. But if it's an hour and a half long movie, sure.
How do you personally take care of your own mental health in such a demanding industry?
Good question. I think I have my hand in a lot of different, I'm stirring a lot of different pots. Like
Mm-hmm.
I am an actor, I teach Pilates, I have a 9 to 5 that allows me to be creative. And so because I have a life that's going on outside of just acting, because a lot of acting is not on your own time, it's I can do this when an audition comes in. And then even when you do the audition, you don't necessarily have a ton of control over whether or not you're going to be able to do the project. And having a whole life outside of that is helpful. One, it makes the time pass by quicker. And two, it gives you life to use in your own
Mm-hmm.
art. And it introduces you to other people who you may not have necessarily met, who that eventually you find out that you can collaborate and you would never have known had you not met someone at a work conference for your 9 to 5, you know? So
Right.
I would say the biggest thing is letting myself be creative in other avenues and progressing in different either hobbies or career alleyways that allow me to utilize all of those skills into acting.
I love that. Um, so coming back to a childhood dream, what would 12-year-old Kathryn think of you today?
I've been thinking about this lately. What would 12-year-old me think? She'd be very confused. She would think it's really cool that I am acting again,
Mm-hmm.
especially because 12-year-old me was like deep in it. Like I wanted to be on Disney Channel. She'd be confused that I'm doing this in Dallas because the industry here locally has grown so much and so
Mm-hmm.
significantly in the last couple years. I would be excited to learn that I'm doing all the things because I think one of the things that really scared me about when I was a kid and still does honestly is that our society just pushes you to pick one lane and
Mm-hmm.
become an expert at it, and schools kind of essentially train you for one career. When you go to college and you pick a major, it seems like you're narrowing yourself down and that you're getting married to one subject for so long. I think 12-year-old me would be really excited that I do a lot of different things and that they all sound cool and they're all pretty different.
Yeah, I think us as creatives, it's hard to like niche down to one thing because
Yeah.
our minds are like everywhere. So we're always dipping our toes into different creative aspects.
Yeah. And that's something so confusing for especially my parents to see.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you go to school, like, or my dad's a lawyer, like you go to undergrad, you go to law school, and then the path is set.
Mm-hmm.
And it's confusing, especially in your 20s, to see your parents are confused, your friends are confused, and they're probably making more money than you at some point, and they've progressed differently. Whereas as creative entrepreneurs, we've stopped, we've started, but at the end of the day, like our network is probably larger, and we've learned how to use a lot of different skills and apply them in different things, which I think carries a lot further.
What advice would you have to people who are inspiring to be an actor?
Aspiring to be an actor, I would say it is a business. So, you have the acting skills that you can learn, and you can learn them in classes and take all of the classes and learn all of the things and try all the different characters that scare you or you find challenging. But B, there's a simple business 101 that a lot of people don't think about, which is like have an email signature,
Mm-hmm.
um, like have great headshots, learn what websites we're using locally, like Actors Access to how to self-submit, learn how to read a breakdown, learn how to respond in a timely manner, learn how to self-tape, just those skills so many people don't have. And I've helped cast a short film before, and I have seen it on the other side. Like there's just certain skills that are like, if you don't know this, I only have such a limited amount of time. Like I don't know if I can invest in an actor that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily know those things. I'd say that there's a lot of skills outside of the craft itself that you can take the time to learn.
Yeah, like the basics, basically.
Yeah.
It's
Like how to set yourself apart by just following directions and looking organized.
right. So we're gonna play a little this or that acting edition.
Okay.
Short film or feature film.
Feature.
Emotional scene or intense dialogue.
Ooh, they could be both. I love intense dialogue, especially quick, witty dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite.
Red carpet premiere or a film festival screening.
Ooh, film festival screening. I work a lot with Dallas International Film Festival and help them with red carpet socials, and that's where my experience is and where I've met the most people.
So the film festival.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, they can. I like to be behind the camera sometimes on the red carpet.
Movie night or binge a series.
Movie night.
Movie night.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you said earlier.
Yeah. You can expose yourself to more. I love a series, and
Mhm.
obviously that's the thing now is a limited series. But I love a movie night.
The only thing about series is like sometimes there's only like one season.
I know. And then it takes like 5 years for the next one to come out.
And then you already got on to something else by that
Yeah,
point.
because we grew up with 22 episode seasons of a show where all the episodes were like 45, 50 minutes long. And then now I have to wait 2 years for Bridgerton to come out, you know, in between seasons. And I move on. I always come back. I try to come back, but I love it. But I need to be, I needed more of it.
That's so funny. Well, thank you, Kathryn, for coming on and sharing your journey.
Yeah,
I really
thank you so much.
Appreciate it. You're a very level-headed woman. I love it. So you're doing all the great things. Hopefully I'll see you on set or at a networking event.
Yeah.
You know, because you go to a lot of those with the film festival.
Yes, and DIF, Dallas International Film Festival, hosts monthly mixers, and I try to go to as many of those as I can. But they happen every month, not just the months where the film festival's going on. And the next one is, I don't know when this comes out, but they're usually like the second or third Wednesday of the month. But we post them on socials, and they're free to attend.
I should definitely tap in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Meet some more people in the creative industry. So
yes, definitely
thank
come.
you so much.
Thank you
for
so
being
much.
Here. Guys, don't forget to subscribe, like. We will see you guys in 2 weeks.